Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abatangelo. Each week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Welcome to Return on Insights podcast. I'm your host, David Lindover. Today we're joined by Michael Jennings, co-founder and CRO of Vox Telesis, a trailblazer that has been revolutionizing the telecom industry for 17 years. With vast experience in project management, technological innovation, and seamless integrations, Michael has helped push the boundaries of what telecom solutions can achieve. In this episode, he'll share his expertise on navigating telecom transformations, the impact of AI, regulatory challenges, and what the future holds for this dynamic sector. Welcome to the show, Michael. Pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So let's start with some questions. From the top, telecom is notoriously complex, as we all pretty much know, and heavily regulated. How did this complexity drive your company's pivot from the small business market to enterprise solutions?
Well, when the FCC changes how things are regulated, or there's private industries that come in that add regulations like the TCR or the TCPA, you start changing how you can interact with your customers and how those relationships are established. You start building in the requirements that are necessary to facilitate that business. And next thing you know, the onboarding of somebody who's a small business is about the same level as onboarding somebody who's a full enterprise. It makes it impossible to do the easy, just turn them on and go. You have to do the full regulatory regardless of their size or scope. So it really kind of focused us in on, if we're going to be doing this work for every client, then we need to make sure that every client can carry the burden of that regulatory requirement. It's a constant shifting of regulations, and the FCC, whether they're applying force in one area or the other, you have to watch it. And so we might have an entire group of small businesses that we deal with in the healthcare industry or in the municipalities that have certain regulations we have to worry about with HIPAA or even some of the SOC 2 compliance, maybe even some FedRAMP. But then you go to the other side and you have these small businesses that do hairdressing. Well, that hairdresser or that small office that doesn't have any SOC 2 or HIPAA compliance, you still have the same level of KYC and KYB associated with them, but you still want to be able to provide the same service. So since we're building to the worst possible regulation, or the most regulated, it still means that small customer receives the same level. So we decided that, it's time to start pivoting. We need to look at what the most regulation is that we need, and how do we achieve a higher density of that clientele into our business.
Sounds like a sound business decision to me. What are some unique challenges you face now that you're selling primarily to enterprises? What's the challenge there compared to smaller customers? And if you could put that in a nice
oh my gosh, there's
answer.
a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. It's time. It's the personal relationships. If you're a larger enterprise and you're going to be spending a good chunk of your yearly budget with us on telecommunications or communication infrastructure, you're going to want to know that we can do the job for you. And what comes along with that is that where in the past there was a little bit of like mystery behind what's the curtain. At this point, with how the internet works and how people can do research, I'm having questions coming my way that are, wow, you actually asked me a question that most people would never have asked me 5 years ago, because YouTube had a channel on what questions to ask. And so they're more educated. You also usually have a higher technical resource where the small business may not have that in-house IT resource or telecom resource. That enterprise is going to have somebody who's the best in their job, and the company's paying them to do a job that no other company, would pay them at a small level because they couldn't afford that person. So you have to answer to him, and you have to make the answers that he's looking for clear, concise, and your systems have to meet their requirements. If they don't, they're going to tell you straight up, we can't do business with you because you don't meet these requirements. You also have the other side of the coin where that small business, they don't usually have a CFO. And so if there's a CFO in the house, they might want to have, is your company sound financially? Can you actually do business with us? And then they probably have a CIO that's going to ask, are you security compliant? Are you SOC 2? Where are you? How are you managing our data? How are you working with the regulatory bodies to make sure that we're meeting our compliance through you? Because there's a infrastructure component of that. And then you get down to the guy that's the compliance person. Like, are you guys in full compliance in every state that we do business in? Are you paying state and local taxes? Are you FCC regulated in these states? Are you remitting appropriately? All of those questions start coming in from these enterprises. I never had to answer that question to the small business because they just assumed we were doing it. And now we actually we can't just go off of they assume it. We have to prove it. And it just lengthens the cycle. It makes you more sharp in your answers. It allows you to be more clear to the client of exactly what you're providing and how you're providing it.
You're playing with the big boys.
Yeah, it's a level of adulting that I wasn't prepared for at times.
We can talk about that on the next podcast.
Absolutely.
How shifting gears for a bit. So how's AI transforming customer communication and agent support in your solutions? Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about that. And are there trust issues with AI adoption in your space?
Yeah, there's a lot of so we've been integrating AI into our service layer, our product layers, and from an analytical perspective, from integration for some of our support infrastructures, we've trained out our own modules on our KBs and all of our training materials so that our support team now has an AI that they can trust and go through and get answers from. And the customers and we're doing this to learn the process because you don't just turn on AI. I mean, an AI agent will only do as well as it's been trained. And what we've found in talking to our clients is that when they come to us and they want to do AI, either they understand exactly what they're asking and they know exactly how they're going to achieve it, or they don't. They just view AI as AI. It's 2 letters, it's on a page and everyone's doing it. And so what we're finding is we're having to educate them that there's a lot that goes behind that. Yes, we can integrate with Gemini, we can integrate with ChatGPT, we can integrate with open source modules that we bring inside, host within our infrastructure. But it only goes as far as you're willing to train it. And how much time and money and energies do you want to spend on that? And that's been a conversation and a challenge because it's like that barrier of entry that no one's prepared for with AI. Is that if it's trained off the internet and you're trying to get a very specific model to do one thing for your business, you still have to start from scratch and train them exactly what your business needs so that the responses are clear and concise. Otherwise, you're going to upset customers or you're going to mess up your business flows. And it's hard.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's a hard lift.
So would you say that the majority of customers, enterprise customers that you're speaking with about AI, know they want to have it, but they come to you with kind of an incomplete set of objectives, criteria? They're like, it's impossible to build a scope because they don't really know what they want. Is that what you're finding?
A lot of that, or their understanding of it is they talk to somebody who's selling them this agent that does customer support. And that's they're selling an AI agent that does customer support. And it probably does that really well once it's been trained. And so when they're talking to you, I want to integrate this AI support agent into my communication stack. Awesome. And we do the integrations, we get the necessary credentials and everything in place, but it's not been trained, so it's not going to give them the answers they're looking for. And the company that sold it to them, there's the agent cost, and then there's the training cost. And they don't always get to the second half of it. But with that said, once they see the benefit of it, so we can walk them through our training module that we have internally where we've trained off of our KBs and we're doing updates to it as we get more and more data. we can ask questions to it and it can give us probably 95% of the time the accurate answer or the accurate response that we need to send to the client. And at 95%, we're still not willing to embed that into some kind of texting or voice app, because that's like that means that 5% of the time we've led the customer awry and they're going to be upset. And that 5% could be one of our biggest customers.
Correct.
So we're very cautious about that in our business model. But maybe someone that doesn't have that kind of model in place where every customer has the same value, maybe the 5% is something they're willing to give a little hassle to the customer to get the answer to them quickly, and then kick them out to the live agent if they absolutely have to. Because one thing about an AI is that it doesn't have a limit of the number of answers it can give.
So it sounds like you're very much in a consultative sales approach with these prospects.
We are.
And there's probably a lot of discovery that you're doing as well, and finding out exactly what their use cases are, and finding out how mature they are in terms of their AI adoption.
Absolutely. And it's to the point where we're ready to go when they are. We're just working with them to get to a comfort level that they're ready to do the full integration. So our goal in our integrations, especially with our CPaaS, is to bring the customer in, say, we can do AI. Let's get you connected for voice, SMS, RCS, email. Let's get all that integration done. And then find out where AI fits best and start working with you on training a model. Whether we work with you to train it or you work with a third party, we can work with them to make sure you get the best answers possible.
Makes good
and
sense.
Allow them to step into it slowly.
Yeah, no, 100%. So shifting gears, your company deals with protections against DDoS and service saturation. How critical is cybersecurity in enterprise telecom today?
Well, it could put you out of business in a week. It's pretty important. And we've watched a few years ago, Telecom was on the target for some DNS amplification attacks, and they brought down some of the largest providers in the country. And what we found is that their tactics to do so, were predicated on that you did not have enough resources to protect your device. And, that's kind of a frustrating, let's see if I can read my camera reset. Sorry. There it goes.
There you go.
That was kind of a frustrating conversation when we were talking to all of the DDoS providers. We had one with our data centers. We had a third party that was using for our hybrid cloud. And then there was Cloudflare that we were working with. And all three of those partners all had different answers to what was going on. And only one of them was actually able to protect us. So you have to have a depth of integrations with each one of them to find out who's going to be the best. And then once you do that, you have to be able to commit your entire infrastructure as quickly as possible and pivot on a dime to protect yourself. And if I have three of my partners going down, I am not cheering. I am like, okay, these other vendors are my competitors. They're getting cyber attacked, and there's not a thing I can do about it but learn from them, to learn from what their moves are, who's making the right decisions, and what was it about their response to this that protected their client base, protected their existing business, and helped them to mature for the future so it won't happen again. And you learn a lot from that. We've been lucky. We haven't been targeted at that level. And we have had small targets, but nothing to bring us down completely. And it's always been small regional issues that we were able to respond to with our existing tool sets and fix. But we know at one point we're going to be the target of someone's ire, and it's not going to be something that's going to go away quickly. So what we're doing is we're investing money in partners like Cloudflare and in the certifications for SOC 2 and HIPAA and the 27001. We're implementing coding policies so that when we're deploying our code, we're deploying it with the anticipation that we might be at risk one day and we need to protect ourselves at every facet, from the guy's keyboard that's writing the code to the person that's deploying the hardware. We need to be on vigilance across the entire infrastructure. And we have backup plans. I think anyone that doesn't have contingency plans when it comes to cybersecurity, anyone can get compromised. your goal is to have a good policy and process in place to not just stop stop from being compromised, but then to repair and to reinvent what went wrong, to fix it, but never allow it to happen again, but also get back on your feet. And we've seen the people that do that well, and we saw some people that didn't. And we learned a lot from what they went through and took notes and, realized that communications with your clients in those moments is key.
Yeah.
Like cybersecurity, there's so much there's so much that goes into it. I think we have like over 400 policies between our organization that comes down to that. Like, what do we do? What do we fix? All these changes that we made for it. But really what it comes down to is, how do you communicate with your clients? And do you have partnerships and vendors that you can work with to resolve those issues quickly?
Sounds like good advice for all companies. Doesn't matter what their size is.
No.
Toggling back for a second to AI. So, AI is impacting everybody. It's impacting marketing very heavily. I am in the marketing business and I can speak for that. How do you balance tech-driven innovation with maintaining trusted human relationships in your space?
Yeah, so it's always been especially in the marketing side, but even in the technical side, when a new technology like AI comes around, there's going to be early adopters. And usually that person is going to get the majority of the headaches out of the way for everyone else. We've always wanted to be that early adopter for ourselves. We want to eat our own dog food. If we're going to do something, we want to be the first to do it. If we're going to offer a product, if we're going to offer a solution, if we're going to integrate with AI, we want to build that training module integrated to our voice SMS. We want to be able to show it off at scale. But the way it's affecting technology now with AI, just from a marketing, this is one vertical of how AI is affecting it. My copyright costs have gone down. My output of content, because I can use AI with pre-prompted information that's coming directly out of my CI/CD build process from my software to write manuals. And it does it like that, done. So it's displacing my need to hire more people, and I'm able to get more content out. But then also, from the marketing side of it, I could take everything I know about marketing over the last 10 years, pile it into a big pile in my front yard and burn it as a bonfire, because everything changed over the summer. You just watched everything overnight go from, this is how SEO works, to, wow, what's going on now? Like, why isn't that working? And then, getting lucky. 90% of what's happening now in the marketing world with AI is getting lucky. Oh, wow, it trained on my website and it has all my content. So when you search for this SBC for Teams, we show up in the AI search. Well, I would never have gotten that with standard SEO, because there was people that were better at SEO than I was. But now, because I got trained on AI and I had content that it liked, I got ranked. So I have no idea. That's the luck version of this new technology. Maybe being in the right place at the right time. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't make a marketing decision that executed on that. And the same thing goes, we don't know how technology is going to morph. Everyone says they don't want AI. They don't want to deal with an AI agent. No one wants to talk to AI. The truth is, if AI is giving you the accurate answer, I think everybody's going to want to talk to AI. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with a friend of mine in the UK, and he's talking about how, AI is like that. It's so sure of its answers when it gives you, even when it's wrong, and it won't change its mind no matter how hard you try. And I'm like, man, you're talking about every intern I've ever hired. When they give you an answer, they're so positive about that answer, even when they're dead wrong. And no matter how many times you try to educate them that that's the wrong answer, it takes experience to get to the point where they give the right answer, because it's their experience. It's not the knowledge, it's the experience they're lacking. And I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot more of that, where people are going to use AI to give the right answers to help get the human person closer to experience faster. So I don't have to have 10 years of experience in telecom. I can use my AI chatbot. I can use my support module, or I can use my marketing AI engine to tell me what I need to do, even if I don't know, because it's giving me, I am trusting that it's the right answer. And then I can do those things and I will have success. And I think that that's, we used to talk about how Google took everyone from, mid-education to high education because you didn't have to have rote memory. Well, the problem with that is you didn't actually have the concept down. And I think what AI has fixed is the concept. AI can give you the concept. If you don't know how to do something, you could go to Google, search it without AI, and it would tell you, here's the explanation. Or if you go to ChatGPT, say, I don't know how to do this, explain this to me Barney style. And it will say, this is the concept, and this is how you would employ it. And here's the code you would paste into these things. And the next thing you know, it's up and running. You don't have to, and it may not be well written, it may not be, but you understand the concept and you've got it running, and then you can go and clean it up with a little bit of effort. I think AI is going to be transformative in how the human interacts with the world, because it gives them not just the knowledge that you were lacking, that rote memory that defined the genius from the mid-educated person, but it gives the concept now to that educated person that separated that smart person who had concept understanding. Now this guy can come up and understand it quickly.
Yeah, so true. So true. That's a very good point. Appreciate that. Last question, looking forward, the trends you see with regulatory changes and technology that enterprises should prepare for. I don't know that you'd have to be a soothsayer to answer that one accurately, but give it your best shot.
Well, we're 51 votes in the states away from having the regulatory market completely changed for AI. And 51 men are going to make a decision. Men and women are going to make a decision on how we regulate AI in the future. And how that's implemented across the government will be unknown at this point, and how it's going to affect each person, whether it comes to, private data. I mean, if you think about it, AI is trained on everyone else's information. So what are they going to do with that? How are they going to go to the AI companies and say, you can't use that private information anymore? I mean, do they unlearn the AI? I mean, there's going to be a lot of, I think AI companies are going to start getting bills from people for, hey, you use my information, I'm going to bill you for that. And I think that that's going to be maybe a new marketplace that opens up because of regulation. Digital rights, I think, is a huge thing that's going to come into play there.
Great.
But I think you're going to start seeing maybe the fulfillment of other regulations. I think USAC's going to change how the government, bills taxes for rural hospitals and schools. I think you'll see changes in stir shaken. It's going to become what it was meant to be. So that stir shaken module where you're supposed to authenticate phone numbers out, I think that's going to mature, and you're going to start seeing that be more force upon people that if you want to send a phone call, we got to know who you are, we got to know where you're calling from, and you got to have a right to make that call. And I think that on top of that's going to come better things where you can actually validate, instead of getting an unknown caller, you can see, hey, this is Vox Telesis calling. Here's their branding information. Here's all their name and what's going on. And I think that's where stir shaken is going to shine, is that you're going to start seeing maybe some of these regulations that 5-6 years ago were like, we're going to deploy this over a short-term period, and then they're just going to explode. I think RCS into the business world, to be able to communicate in rich content to your cell phones from businesses, will start to change how we do communications. A lot of companies will build an app in Google or Android, or Apple or Android, to be able to push their business out to the edge, where they could have just done an RCS message with a web link in it that shows up as a button that they push. What's your location? Here's a meeting reminder. Here's an address or a purchase, or pay here, and you click there and you go and just do an Apple Pay. You don't have to have an app anymore. And I think you're going to start seeing features and regulations like that start to explode in the market and transform how businesses deal with their day-to-day interactions, and throw AI on top of that. And now you know when to contact the person to get the best response. So yeah, I think there's a bunch coming down the path, especially from a, customer success, customer comfort level. It's how do I work with a customer? How do my customers work with me? And I work with their customers, and how do we bring that all together? And I think regulations, especially at the telecom level, as they start to recognize that there needs to be more openness there, I think we're seeing big changes.
Thanks for sharing your insights. Michael Jennings, co-founder and CRO of Vox Telesis. Look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, David.